Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 121 of Cognitive. I'm going to be releasing this late because, I'm sick again, but that doesn't change the fact that I will be telling you about a wonderful day and a wonderful week. So don't worry, and I seem to be on the uptick from my illness. I say this because I'm recording this on Saturday night at 6:49 p.m. on March 18th, 2023, which is basically 2 days before I normally would record my next episode, which is probably going to be kind of attenuated as a result. Your comments are very welcome. Please leave them on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our group on Ravelry. Let me see what else I have to say here. Oh, we got a bunch of warm thanks. I may be a little behind on these, I'll be honest. But I hope I'm getting everybody. First of all, Metro Rebecca, whoa! That wasn't just a coffee. That wasn't just a pot of coffee. That was a gallon of coffee. Thank you for your extremely generous donation. I hardly know what to say because that was incredibly generous of you. Thank you very much. That certainly covers a couple months, and that just was a really kind thing to do. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Tiny Shiny Things gave us a link. I'm burping because I'm sitting here drinking keto hot chocolate, by the way. Anyway, TSD gave us a link to Merriam-Webster on words with no English translation. It's not in the show notes. I believe that is in the responses to the episode. And I appreciate that. I have to sit myself down and look at that. Cricket, alias Cricket, popped in to tell us about the word pandan because I said I didn't know what pandan flavoring is when I was making my chia pudding. Pandan is a, quote, strappy, unquote, leaf from the pandanus plant that is used in Malaysian and other Asian cuisines as a flavoring and or for wrapping food before cooking. Okay, I really want to try this thing. Let me tell you, when you talk about wrapping food in leaves, yeah, baby, that's where I get really interested. And of course, C. Connie Gale, in our Ravelry group discussion, tells us about yarn twist while she and Sao Pal 1 are digging themselves out of the snow. And that's a nice llama in that picture, Connie. I would say go over to the Ravelry discussion and have a look at what she says about yarn twist. Frankly, I'm a little bit too worn down right now to try to explain it. I'm still kind of untwisting it in my head. But Sao Pal got it, and so it's helpful, but I'm just not there yet. But you should go look at it. I really appreciate it when people send in tips and corrections and such. We strive for some accuracy around here. COVID. I don't have it. This is the same thing I had last cold about 3 weeks ago. It just came back. I think my kid may have brought it home from school. We all three have it. You know, if this isn't a message to wear a mask, wash your hands, socially distance, update your vaccines, frankly, I don't know what is. And do remember to carry around some copy of your COVID vaccine record, even if you take a picture of it and keep it on your phone. It is a useful thing. Do remember that you're protecting kids, the immune compromised, and all the wonderful people in our community who don't deserve an illness that you're transmitting. So please, let's remember when we protect the community, we protect ourselves. The best way to protect yourself is to make sure your community is not getting infected, right? We all get that. Alrighty, enough of that. What is on my hooks and needles? It's been pretty exciting around here. Okay, I got caught up in my little basket. You may remember as I sit here in the study of love, or the Office of Love during working hours. At my feet, I have many project bags and many yarn bins, but I also have the infamous cardboard carton of Doomy Doom Doom. This is the carton that I believe Knit Pick sent me with all the yarn for the temperature blanket back in 2022. And then it overflowed with extra yarn because I have poor self-control and get very confused about yarn quantities. And now all of that yarn is out of it. So I could throw it away, right? No. Because what I did was said, well, that's convenient, an open-topped box at my feet. Started throwing other things in it. So I'm still working my way through the cardboard box of Doomy Doom Doom. Unfortunately, the CC of Doomy Doom Doom gave birth to the attractive little lined basket of scraps, which are just oddball yarns that popped up while I was working on emptying the cardboard carton of Doomy Doom Doom. So I was working through those. I was saying, let's get rid of these oddballs that I'm really not going to use. For example, I sit here as I speak to you wearing my vest that I believe was Vestuary 2022, and it is in the lovely Malabrigo Rios in the color Heaven and Earth. You've heard me, Cielo y Tierra, you've heard me say this before. So there I was with one skein left. Actually, 1 1/4. And I don't know why I had 5 skeins of it. That means I would have had a total of 5 skeins. I usually use 4 for a vest, but I did. So I went looking through various sources, and I happened upon the Dragon Scale Mitts by Yarnivore UK, which are crocheted mitts. And these went around, I think it was 2018 or 2019. And these were a big hit when they were published. And a few variations by different people were published. To me, the most attractive variation was the one by Yarnivore UK. Better than that, it's free. Better than that, it's brilliantly written. It's a very clever pattern. This is someone who knows how to write a crochet pattern. And this is not uncomplicated as little patterns go. Well, as you can see, since I talked about it last episode, I got just addicted to these things. So I did my first set in, I think you may remember from last episode, the scaled part at the fingers over the hand were in Rios in Anniversario. And then the crocheted in triples part was in a leftover skein of Cascade Venezia in worsted weight. That thing, it must be from like 2010, in the color denim, I believe. Anyway, okay, so those were finished last time, as you may remember. This time, I finished the Dragon Scales in 2 additional colorways. Both of them are Rios colorways. And this time, I did the entire mitt in the same colorway. The first set are in Rios in Heaven and Earth, Cielo y Tierra. And if you look at that, that's a really great pair of mitts because it really shows you one of the things that goes on with Rios. Every Rios color that I've ever seen comes in 2 variations per colorway. And so in that one you can see it. If you look at the glove on the right, the fingers were done from a different skein, the remnants of one skein. The rest of them, the entire other glove, and then the bottom of the glove on the right were done in a different skein. And you can't miss it. When you see them in real time, it's really evident, the wild difference in the color between the 2 skeins. This is a little weird, but I kind of love it. I particularly love it since I was making these on the train back and forth last Wednesday, going to Disneyland, which is a story unto itself. And these are great train crocheting. I basically did one on the trip down and one on the trip back. Nothing like a day at Disneyland where you arrive home with a brand new FO. Then in the picture on the right, you can see I lost control. I said, how many Rios skeins, oddball, do I have floating around the house? And so I'm looking on my stash on Ravelry, and there it is, my leftover Archangel. You may remember Archangel became my very first brick sweater, and the moths got it. And rather than try to patch it, I said, aloha, don't want moths around my other stuff. So anyway, there was that tragic leftover of the Archangel. And you can see I just went crazy. and did the gloves again. So I now have 2 complete pair of these, and I just love making these things. This is one of those few objects I think, I could make and sell these on Etsy, because these are just fantastic to make. Interesting thing, when you put them on, now, I want to point out too, the scales are pointing towards your fingertips. In the standard version, in my version, I've now seen them done the other way, scales pointing inward towards your elbow. I happen to like this version because I'm just not going to think that version out, to be honest. But when you put these babies on, you will see as you look down gaps between the scales as they're on your hand. However, I got less of that in the second set here, which is really my third set, in the Archangel, the orange-red. That's actually orange-purple. I got fewer gaps because I did go up a needle size. The size is a crochet hook needle size. Listen to me, I went up a hook size. The crochet hook in the pattern is an E, as in eager. And I just felt like those ones in Heaven and Earth were getting a little tight. They're not uncomfortable, but they could be looser. So I went up to an F, bingo. In a worsted weight, this works great for me in an F hook. However, the original pattern is for DK weight, so that might explain something. So yeah, we're way happier sitting there on the F hook. Now, that's all well and good, but I still had little blobs left over. So you betcha, I went over to a different thing, to this simple cowl pattern that you see, and I cannot remember what it's called, but you can catch it in the show notes. I do have links to the 2 cowls. I want to say Simply Something cowl. At any rate, hey, I'm just going to take a lot of liberties because I'm a little under the weather tonight. But those cowls are so fast. They take about 100 yards, I think. And you can see them. They're just a very simple pattern where you do the opening chain however you want. I think it's a chain 55. And then the next row is a single crochet, and the row after that is a double crochet. If you're British, there's the foundation chain, and then the next row is a double crochet, and the row after that, no, the next row is, let me think, a single crochet, and the row after that is a treble crochet. In American, what we call a half double, you call a double. So anyway, it's alternating rows of single crochet and double crochet. If you're American, if you're Brit, or in some way in the Empire, it's going to be single crochet alternating with treble. This is so insanely easy, it's hardly worth saying. I really like it because it's very typical at a moment like this for people to just make all double crochet, just a total cowl out of double crochet, or treble if you're not American. And you can do that, and that would look great. But what I like out of alternating the rows like this is you get a more closed structure when you look at the cowl. And it's a nice fit. It really is a simply good thing to do. And it's an amazing way to use up some scraps. Now, if I had my druthers, I would do this in 200 yards. That is, when you wear this for a few hours, it starts to stretch and to collapse, because this is wool I'm wearing, a little bit down your neck. And then, you take it off, you foof it out, and you hand press it back in shape, and then it fits the way it looks in those pictures again. But the real way to do this cowl is probably with twice the yarn. So they tell you to do 11 rows in the pattern. I'd do 22. So when that baby starts to stretch out, it just still collapses into a full funnel around your neck. I will tell you something about these cowls. They make a simply wonderful cowl for sleeping in at night. That a soft wool that isn't scratchy against your neck. I happen to wear cowls to bed a lot now because my neck gets cold. And the boys, when they make the beds, and they do not make the blankets go high enough up the bed for me. I want my blanket right up to my chin. They don't. They sleep hot. So, the answer is I often will wear a sweater to bed, and I often will wear a cowl to bed. Do I wear a hat to bed? I have done that in certain situations, but most of the time I don't, because I'm wearing my sleep headband to bed. And so that's keeping me warm because it's around my forehead and ears. At any rate, so we have a lot of FOs here, as you can see. 2 pairs of the dragon scale mitts and 2 of these cowls, but wait, there's more. I finished the project that was the random mug mats made from the kitchen cotton in the colorway Moondance. You can see it there. It's a very beautiful white and a cobalt blue and a blue so dark that it looks black in the picture and purple. They came out very nice. You cannot have too many of these things. If you're ever bored and you're a crocheter, seriously, pop into Michael's or Joann's, pick up some kitchen cotton, and just crochet it into these things. These are the best things to have around. I have gone through dozens of them in my time. I knitted them once and then said, never going to do that again, because they go a lot faster in crochet and they're thicker because of the stitch structure of crochet. Okay, in progress. Well, Stash Toss 2023. The score is, as of this moment, 4 skeins into my stash versus 21 out of my stash. So I'm pretty happy about that. And Vestuary 2023, which is in the beautiful Cascade Quattro that no longer exists, I am now on the front and I'm going up the right side of the front, which is to say, I knit the whole thing in the round up to the armpits, separate front and back, and I finish the back, which just is pretty plain. You just have some binding off to do the armholes. And then I went on to the front. On the front, you knit 3 inches up exactly the same way with the same bind-offs for the armholes as you did on the back. When you get 3 inches up, half the stitches go into a holder, and you do the right side and you go up the side, and you're basically making a V-neck on one side, and you're following the bind-off pattern for the armhole on the other. This gets really fast because it gets down to very few stitches. And I am doing respectably on that, considering I've been kind of too sick to knit for the last 4 nights. But I'm happy with it. Vestuary, I'd like to get it finished because we're into March. I would have liked to have finished it 2 weeks ago, but too many cool things happened. If your life is full of cool things, you just don't get to whine, do you? No love to the Lane Splitter. That don't know yet, again, that's slowed down, but oh, I'm so happy with it. I keep saying that. Right now, rows 1 through 11 are completely finished. They're sewn together. The ends are woven in. Basically, it's slightly more than half the quilt assembled. Row 12 is clipped onto the body of this, and I'm working my way along that long edge. I'm almost finished. I think I'm about 4 or 5 blocks from finishing attaching row 12, which will then lead me to go back and weave in all those ends, which is not hard. You just get used to it. Row 13 is also going quite nicely. It's sitting in the cardboard carton of Doomy Doom Doom at my feet. And I think I've probably got about 12 or 13 of those babies with their short edges seamed together, and the rest are still clipped. So we are still at a total of 209 blocks out of 361 are done and finished and happy. And the others are waiting to be added. The nice thing is I no longer have to clip them together 1 block at a time to make a row. I got all those rows done that were not clipped together. I'm now on to rows 13 through 19, which I managed to clip together before I ran out of clips. So that really speeds things up quite nicely. I'm also in a happy place with this because I'm pretty close to finished my little nook in the bedroom. I have a nice little craft nook with my new rocking chair from Christmas and an OttLite with a magnifier next to it. And on the other side is a beautiful handmade wooden blanket chest, which happens to have one of those beautiful purple mats I was just telling you about, and in the Moondance colorway that I just finished. It's got a big one of those for my tea and any plate if I want to sit there and nosh. And it's got a nice lined basket there as well that I can put projects and things of interest in. And that will come up in a minute, what's in that right now. So what does that mean? Well, that's all sitting next to the blanket chest. What's on the blanket chest, all the mat and basket. And on the blanket chest as well, I have the clip together rows 14 through 19. So if I want to go in there and just sit comfortably in my little corner, I can sit there and I can start assembling those rows. It doesn't matter. They're clipped in order. So I don't have to know which row I'm working on. I can just pick up a row and start assembling it. That's a nice feeling. That means on some warm afternoon, if I'm bored, I can just go in there and move that along. So someday I will walk in there and say, I need row 15, and I will look at it, and lo and behold, it will already be seamed together, and I can just clip it right on. Woo-hoo! I'm living for that day. Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery, not yet. I'm getting very in the mood for embroidery, so we will see how that goes. The Lady Eleanor shawl, no love, but I want to get to it. We still have a list of my favorite resources, and I'm not going to run through them with the voice I have. And that leads me to say Dizzy Blondes. I probably have about 3 fuzzballs of Minerva that need to be added to the drop spindle. So that's going very nicely. She's starting to increase her shedding. Yes, that time of year is arriving. Let's get on to a strategy. Now, you remember I'm talking about mindfulness, and I'm doing a reframe by using concepts based on Japanese culture that are very popular. And this week is Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. Generally, this is understood as improving yourself by making constant small changes for the better and embracing the process, recognizing that you're committed to doing this. I like this a lot. If you look at the ACT hexagram of psychological flexibility, this represents committed action straight on. That when people come into psychotherapy, they're usually suffering from some kind of inertia. People who are depressed are simply lying in bed, not doing anything, saying it's hopeless. People who are anxious are sort of running in tight circles, using up energy but achieving nothing, not really fixing anything. And the goal in therapy is to get out of both those processes and instead recognize that you can move forward, but you have to make a plan to do it, and you carry it out in small steps. In both anxiety and depression, the victim feels like they just can't do that. They feel like they need a big improvement, and they need it now. The interesting thing, of course, about American culture is we have no concept of that. Americans are always big, 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 go, 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 do, do, do. And we're always looking at ourselves and says, have we done enough? Have we done enough? And I think that question, have we done enough, is misleading. I see a lot of things in America about slow down, and you're working too hard. You don't need to be so goal-oriented. I don't agree with that. What I think is being missed there is we never talk about small steps following a plan of committed action. The long game is what I'm really saying. Can I make a long-term plan and carry through with it? And again, in America, no, we don't do that. You're supposed to get everything now, 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 quick, quick, quick. I think Kaizen is the answer to that. This idea that change is improvement if it is planned and going in a predicted, desired direction. But change comes through, say it with me, constant, small changes. In another way of looking at it, course corrections. If you watch your hands when you're riding a bike, that's a good model of what I mean. When you ride a bike, you'll see your hands kind of just moving in little increments from side to side. The handlebars are not steady. So what is actually happening there? Well, you're biking down a road, you hit a small rock, your wheel bounces. And you don't think about the front wheel. You don't think about it. Your hands just take a firm hold on the handlebars and reposition them so they're going forward in a straight line after they've had a little bounce in the air. It's instinctive. It's not something you give a lot of conscious thought to. Small course corrections. If you're steering a boat and you've got a motor launch and you're going across a lake and there's any kind of waves, and you're looking at a fixed point on the opposite shore and you start drifting to a side, you're going to do small corrections. The same with sailing. That's the model. You do it all the time, but you're not thinking about it. And sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to look at a situation in your life that seems overwhelming, and you have to say, no, I can get through this. And you have to grit your teeth And you have to break it into small steps, and you have to commit to the first small step. You don't commit to the last step. You commit to the first step, then you commit to the second step until you're at the last step. It's like you're going down a staircase. Okay? When you're going down a staircase, you want to get to the bottom. So you don't start by jumping off the bottom step because you're not at the bottom. You're at the top. If you jump, like, oh, okay, I only need to take one step because I'm really on the last step. If you jump from the top of the staircase, not so good. Not a good idea. But if you take one step at a time as you go down the stairs, and you're on the last step, then you can jump. So that's it. That it's always small steps, and you have to commit to the step that is in front of you. Not the step you'd like it to be, but the step that it is. Anybody here quilt? Quilters know all about this one. If you're going to make a quilt, you go and you take a quilt class. Who actually finishes the class when you take your first quilt class? The person who committed to the steps. You can't say, I'll love my quilt when I have the finished quilt. You have to love every step of the process. How do I know this? I've written, I can't remember if it's 5 or 7 book-length academic works. And that's what you learn. If you're going to write books, you've got to love every step of the process. You can't just stay locked onto the finished object as the only good object. That's Kaizen. That you constantly are looking at what you're doing, you're correcting your course, you're doing new steps, and you have to embrace the whole thing. Because every step is a change for the better. Now, if you're looking at this in terms of the ACT hexagon, I would also say this represents a level of acceptance. Instead of avoiding the experience, oh, I've got to iron all this fabric, or oh, I've got to write all these notes for my dissertation. Instead, what you're doing is you're saying, this moment is good enough. You're not avoiding the experience. You are saying, look how well I'm doing this job. Look at how beautiful the fabric is. Look how many notes I've written. I am so much further ahead now than I was when I started on this step. So part of Kaizen, part of continuous improvement, is about teaching yourself to appreciate the value of each step. This is what defeats people who are anxious and depressed or depressed. This is what defeats them. They want the end result. They're not able to focus on each small step and recognize that it's all success. The other thing here is it represents cognitive diffusion. That is, the thing you don't want is cognitive fusion. This is what I am and I can never change. So before you make the quilt, you're a person who wants to quilt. After you make the quilt, you're a quilter. What is the difference? You are willing to diffuse your thinking. You are willing to say, I want to be a quilter. I've started trying. I'm making a plan. I'm becoming a quilter. I'm getting through the process. I am a quilter. I am now a quilter with a finished quilt. I say it in that way because if your quilt fails, if you burn the fabric when you iron it, if you just don't have any replacement fabric, whatever, we don't always get success. And that's Kaizen too. You're making constant small changes for the better. So if things go wrong, you just fix. You keep moving towards the better. Kaizen is a marathon. At mile 1, you're going to feel a lot different than you feel at mile 26. Marathons are 26.2, in case you didn't know. Okay, you're going to feel very different. And you have to be able to tolerate being who you are in the beginning of the race. When you're anxious, you're wondering if you can make it. It's going to be a long day. Will I break down? How will I get help if I break down? Have I brought enough of the things I need to get through the race? You got to be able to tolerate that. At mile 26, I'm here to tell you, at least in my 3 marathons, I was in blinding pain. My shoes were full of anonymous liquid that I hoped was not blood. After the first marathon, I was pretty sure it wasn't, but whatever it is, it's not pretty. And every step hurts. Okay, you've got to be ready at that moment to simply hold on that you're finishing, you're going to make it, you're almost there. After all this whole day of running, you're not going to lose it here at mile 26 when you've only got a quarter mile to go. And so you have to be both those people. You have to be the person at mile 1, and you have to be the person at mile 26 Of course, my favorite person was who I was my first marathon at mile 20, where they put bananas out, half bananas, for us as a snack on the course. And everybody just threw the peels on the ground. And we're running up an asphalt street. And it's so hot that the tar on the top is melting and the banana peels are sliding. And it just looked like a setup for a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And everybody was laughing when they saw that. And everybody was making that crack. I liked who I was at mile 20 the best. Actually, I liked who I was afterwards in the shower at the gym when I kept thinking about the medal and crying. But that's another story. But you have to be able to tolerate being all those people. Okay, let me move on from Kaizen. Nothing really new in the fluffy books because I'm just working again. I'm working my way through Introduction to American Deaf Culture because we read 2 chapters every 2 weeks and take a test on it. Oh, shoot. Well, that's the first thing. I didn't do a lot of stretching last week. What I did was I went to Disneyland to meet my friend Maxine. She was flying in from Philadelphia for a trade show for her corporation. And she said, why don't you come out and we'll just have fun. And so neither one of us wanted to go to Disney. So we just walked. I think seriously, we probably walked 5 or 6 miles. It really hurt, I'm going to say. But it was so great. I got home, and I do want you to know, when I got home, I thought, I'm great. And the minute I walked in the door, I thought, I hurt so badly, I want to vomit. I just didn't bother with dinner. What I did do, and I'm very grateful, was I took an Epsom salt bath, a very hardcore one with some bubble bath to make it pretty. And as I laid in the bathtub, I also gave myself, since it was nice hot water, a reflexology foot massage. So I want to point out to you, I learned how to do this when I was about 22, right after my father died. It was the only way I could sleep at night, was I would rub my own feet and I would pass out in the chair, wake up in the middle of the night sitting in this chair in my living room. But that helped me to sleep at a time in my life where I was so stressed I couldn't. And so I've never forgotten how to do it. If you don't know how to rub your own feet, please go off to Barnes & Noble and get a good guide to doing reflexology on yourself. I was sitting in this bath. It was really great, and I could feel the horrible chemicals draining out of my body with all that Epsom salt. I'm very generous with the Epsom salts in my bath, believe me. But I thought, something is still not right. And I just sat up in the suds, and I gave myself a pretty fast massage on both feet, and everything went right. It really is astonishing what you can achieve with one of those. This week, while I'm coughing my lungs out, I've got this big lump on my right foot, and it's right in the lungs section on the ball of the foot. You can really tell my lungs are congested. Even my feet are telling me. And yes, I'm just massaging them, and yes, it goes away when I massage it. So offshoot, walk until you drop. But walk with a friend around Disneyland, wear your running shoes to do it, and don't forget that wonderful Epsom salt bath. Something I really like, it was an unexpected find last week. I was roaming around Etsy. I have no idea why. And I saw this beautiful chain, and I said, what is that? Turns out it was a chatelaine. And if you know what a chatelaine is, you will understand my delight. A chatelaine was worn, now you see them in medieval times on the belts of the women, and these are usually long belts around their waist, and the chatelaine is often hanging as part of the buckle, as it's usually a chain or can be leather ties, whatever, but hanging from it are the tools that the woman needs in her daily life. In medieval times, a chatelaine is usually keys to the house, and it became the symbol of a hotelier, somebody who was running an inn, or of the housekeeper in a large estate, not necessarily the mistress of the estate, who held the keys, and she would have them on her chatelaine. That is the origin, I think, of the modern keyring as well, or one of the origins. However, in the 19th century, about a little bit after the Regency era, I don't think you see them on Regency gowns particularly, but as the gowns got bigger, the skirts got wider. In the 19th century in Western Europe, the women had trouble reaching their pockets. In the 18th century, they had really good solutions for this. That they would simply wear layers of petticoats and overskirts. And the overskirts would have long slits in them. And before they put the overskirt on, they literally had pockets on long string, and they would tie the pockets around their hips, and they would put the skirt over it, and the slits in the skirt would align with the pockets. They did not attach them to each other. That meant they could transfer their pockets from outfit to outfit. Designers, take note. Okay, in the 19th century, the structure of the gowns didn't really allow for that well, although I think in lower class gowns you still have that showing up. But in middle class and above, the gowns don't allow for that. So some rocket scientist invents a pretty ornament and hangs it off the woman's belt like a medieval chatelaine. And the belt is higher now. Usually it's not sagging down the middle of the front the way medieval belts often did. It's now firmly around the waist at waist or upper hip level. And there would be a clip with a metal decoration hanging on the belt, and from that would be suspended several chains. And on each chain you could have a tool. And this became kind of hilarious because really upper class women didn't carry tools. Why would they carry scissors? So they would carry things like the well-loved Tussie Mussy, which is a little metal cone that they could put a flower in, a posy. Or they would carry a little vial of smelling salts or perfume, or a perfume stick, or a pen and a little notebook. This, in essence, was a lightweight purse. But you hung it from your waist and everybody could see the tools. On Netflix, they have, I think it's The Law According to Lydia Poet. I have to look at it. It's an Italian mystery that's been dubbed into English. If you want to see chatelaines in action, she's got them. She's wearing them all the time. They're very subtle. They don't stand there and scream, I'm here, I'm here. That often the top part, the ornamental part, is covered under a coat or jacket, but they're very handy. What has this got to do with me? I've been looking for these all my life. I have loved chatelaines from the minute I first understood what they were, and I think the 19th century idea is brilliant. Instead of putting pockets, you just hang it off the front and make it decorative. And they do. And anything can be on a chatelaine. It was very popular to have a little clip, and on the front of the clip, it looks like a lady's hand with the thumb and forefinger extended. And behind that was hidden the clip, and you would clip your embroidered handkerchief to it. You would fold it a certain way to show the pretty embroidery. So, I mean, you could have your handkerchief on this thing, which, once you use it, that's not going to look as good, is it? Even so, you could do that. So, I found a store, Raspberry Studios, on Etsy, and they're selling chatelaines, and they're selling them belt chatelaines and necklace chatelaines. I opted for the necklace. I was not pleased with the belt ones. I'm not really sure why, but all of these things, the necklaces run like, I think about $29. The belt ones run more like $35, and they have a goodly number of chains suspended from them. So I ordered a necklace. I like it. You can see a picture of me wearing it over top the feral Easter egg sweater. My only complaint, it looks okay as a necklace to me. And I like that the necklace just goes over your head. You don't have to clip it in the back. It's just a around your neck necklace, a big generous loop. What I don't like is it's too long. Now, as you wear it, it looks fine. I can see why it is as long as it is, because the ornamental part, there's an ornamental charm that the chain runs through, and that's right about between your breasts. And everything else hangs lower. When you wear it, it feels awkward and a little weird. But all your tools are there. If you look closely, you will see that I am wearing, from left to right, as you face the picture, a little fabric pocket from a ribbon that holds my scissors, a needle case, a round, a cylindrical canister with a screw-off top, and a tape measure. Boy, is that good. Boy, is that good. Boy, do I love that. Okay, so that is my chatelaine. There is more to come in this story. I am still ordering pieces and messing around, and I will tell you more about that next episode. But I would go have a look at that picture. I simply love these things. And Raspberry Studio on Etsy, boy, do they have great tools. They've got a great selection. One of the things I did do this weekend was think about what it would be like to make chatelaines myself and sell them. And I haven't got all the solutions there that I need. I think I'd need to learn how to do some simple welding, or I'd have to find a source for the actual ornamental piece that has the loops that you hang chains from, that hang the tools on. I need to look for that. Even so, I did go to Michael's and look at chains and tools and stuff, and thereby hangs the tail. Put a lid on it. The tea tastings continue. I've discovered I'm allergic to Trader Joe's spiced chai tea. It literally made my throat swell, so that had to go into the dumpster. No resurrection there. In the meantime, I started making iced tea again because I'm tired and I'm thirsty, and so I'm using my caffeinated tea leaves along with a lovely cone-shaped infuser that fits into a quart mason jar, and that comes from Snarky Teas. So I've been making a lot of iced tea and enjoying that. I'm looking at Plum Deluxe. They seem to come up with a wonderful tea collection box once a year in April. I'm considering that seriously. And I'm really drinking through a lot of tea right now. I've just been enjoying it. In terms of new tastings, I don't have much to add, but it's been pretty good. One thing I have learned, I am going to go into their herbal selection, their medicinal selection, and start ordering tea. So, on to the blather. Maxine calls. Well, actually, I should say Maxine texts me from Philadelphia, says I'm coming out for a day. Maxine is a corporate marketing executive for a very interesting corporation. I won't go into it. It's one of the great people I know. She was my maid of honor at my wedding. One thing you learn about corporate people, when you're on their agenda, you're on their agenda. When you're not, you're not. Just wave goodbye. So when Max blows into town, if you don't go see her, you're not going to see or hear from her for quite a while because she's got a pretty stacked agenda. She's a busy woman. She participates in many things. She's one of these great people. Our paths have really diverged since we were sorority sisters together at Kappa Delta in the old days. And she's just one of the people you realize is just a wonderful person. But she always had a hankering to be social. She loves marketing. She fits it like a glove. That's not my world. So I enjoy Max. And I realize with age you have to realize, we're going to go slightly different paths. But she's a blast, and she's a genuinely social, fun person to be with. So she blows into town. So I was going to go by myself, to which my son sadly announced that he would have liked to have gone to Disneyland for his birthday, which is coming right up rapidly. So anyway, we got a hotel room free for points, and then we went down. Now, I don't like to drive the freeways. The LA freeways have gone crazy. The cops are not really policing them anymore. It's very, very rare to see any cops. So it's a free-for-all, and I don't enjoy it. So I've looked into the train. To my delight, the train is much better than taking the freeway. Wow, I wish I discovered this 20 years ago. It was insane. We got up at like 5:30. We were on the train by 6:20. Perfectly easy, up in Santa Clarita. We rode it into LA Union Station. We had 20 minutes, went to the restroom, bought the son some pretzels, got on the train. Nobody was on the train down to Anaheim. It was a wonderful ride. I thought, I really just want to take this train and explore the region. This was really, really fun. I think taking an e-bike on the train and just puttering around these little towns all over the route would be so much fun. So there we are on the train. We had a blast. I was knitting away, or I should say I was crocheting away on the dragon scale gloves. It was just fun. There's water everywhere because of the heavy rains this year. So that was nice to see. Several of the rivers in flow, including the LA River. So it was really great. We got down to Anaheim. We were at the hotel by 9. The hotel was just up the road from the Anaheim Arctic Station. Very easy walk. And then from there, our train tickets function as bus tickets, so you don't have to buy bus tickets. And we just a straight line on an express bus right up to Disneyland. So I met up with Max. The boys went off to Disney to celebrate the junior's birthday. Max and I just walked endlessly, ended up having a lovely lunch in downtown Disney at a place that looked totally industrial, and I cannot remember the name. And we just talked, and it was a great day. Now, you can see in the picture, there's Maxine, and her birthday is in March, and so I thought, what do you give Max? Max always used to love pink. As you can see in the picture, she now loves blue. However, I didn't know that, so I picked out one of my knitted hats. Boy, was I grateful. I have been just knitting hats out of leftover yarn. I reached in, there was the beautiful Cascade hat out of one of their hand-dyed, hand-painted yarns. And she loved it. She kept saying, what a color, and saying, yes, it is. And then I gave her the original dragon scales because I didn't have any others finished, but they were so in her colors. As you can see, she's wearing the dragon scale mitts, my first pair. And she reacted just right. She goes, those are so cool. She kept wearing the mitts and saying, these things are really soft and really warm. And she wore them as the evening cooled, and we went to my bus stop to send me back to the train station. Why did we go to the train station? Blankets got a nosebleed and was snorting and huffing. We didn't know what was going on there, and we just finally realized she might have just gotten injured, but anyway, she's over it now. But it gave us a few anxious days, so I didn't spend the night. I ended up going home, and that was good because I wanted to see patients the next day, and I didn't want to rush home on the train and then, drive home up to the farm and then rush around and try to get ready. I didn't have the energy. So, it was kind of nice. I went home that night. The boys stayed in the hotel. And you can see my toes in my bubble bath where I'm just about to begin, in fact, giving myself the foot massage. So I am lying there in the bubble bath, relaxing, and Max is showing off the gloves there in the adjoining picture. So that was the wonderful Disney day. And let me do the pup date, that everybody's okay. Blankets gave us a scare because she seemed to get a head cold, and she got the nose problem, that her nose was bleeding. And I think now, looking back at it, she laid all day with me for several days in my study. She got very uncomfortable because when I was sick, and off and on, I've been sleeping in my study on the love seat because that makes me sleep upright. And Blankets hates that. She hates that I'm not in my bed, and she wants to be under the bed with me, underneath the bed, when I'm on top of the bed. So she doesn't like that. So she's been sleeping in my study. I suspect the nosebleed was that the heater, the space heater in the study, was drying out the study too much. Because while she got a nosebleed, I was coughing a lot and my throat dried out. Since I've turned off the space heater, my throat is healing nicely. So I think we both got hit by just way low humidity. And when I say way low, where we live, the humidity is usually about somewhere between 10 and 13%. So that's not much. So when you turn on that space heater, which is dry heat, yeah. In the meantime, ASL class, deaf culture class, goes onward. We had a good week. We went in, and my previous teacher was the guest speaker. And she was really friendly. She was like, how are you doing? And to my shock, they both were signing at me. And I felt really uncomfortable because I don't have that much sign. But I did okay. I held up well. And it was just delightful. So I'm working my way through it. I don't know if I'm going to take the final or just say this is enough. I'm looking at online classes for the summer because I can't get what I want from our local community college. They're just not really offering anything I can take. And I hate to go till fall with nothing. The Hubs date, well, he and the beloved son both have our cold. But, everybody's doing okay. Tonight, we all figured out, this is Saturday night, we always go out for Mexican at our local Mexican place. We're all too sick. And we just decided it's not fair to the people at the restaurant to carry this with us. Since a lot of people in that region are the MAGA folk who would not care about spreading disease, we are really feeling self-righteous. But we are not going. In the meantime, on the calendar, I still have the Grand Canyon. Not so sure that's going to happen. I'm looking at another event in May, and we'll see how that works itself out. And meanwhile, the Evolution of Psychotherapy Conference, my beloved conference, is on in December in Anaheim at the Convention Center, exactly where Max's trade show was. Minerva gets the last word. Is it love or is it a blep? Have a look at the picture. I just had my camera sitting on a stand. It was set on photo. And as Minerva began to climb into my lap, I turned the camera lens around and I turned on my remote shutter. As you can't see in that picture, my right hand is up against the side of my face. My left hand is hidden behind Minerva, hitting the shutter. So I just took a stream of pictures as Minerva climbed in my lap and bathed herself and did what she does. I thought this one was hilarious because her tongue looks like a heart. Her eyes have an amazing expression. Seriously, go to the show notes, blow it up, and have a look at it. So I thought, that's such a great Minerva moment. Because number one, it's weird looking. And number two, you look at it and you say, that cat's tongue is heart-shaped. How is she doing that? And you ask the question you're always asking with Minerva. Is this a sign of love or is something else going on? And I thought how often that applies to my patients. They can't tell if they're receiving love or they're getting some kind of negative signal from the people around them. Is it love or is it paranoia? Is it love or is it a cat doing a blep? What is it? Well, what I would tell you, if you're going to get by in life, Minerva would tell you, interpret it as love, okay? Because whether it's love or it's a blep, she's in my lap, and I got to cope with that. So I might as well put best spin on it. Is it love or is it a blep? It's love. It's a blep. It can be both. On that happy note, please remember everything we know. As I've already said, we are still in the pandemic. I know that sounds unbelievable. But, when I say that, maybe we're not. Maybe it's not that serious anymore. I haven't looked at the numbers in a while, and that in itself tells you I'm not taking it as seriously. Except I know in April I will get a booster shot again for COVID. Because right now I am thanking heaven that I got my pneumonia shot. If I had not gotten a pneumonia shot, I would have pneumonia right now. I would have gotten it 3 weeks ago, or I'd have it right now. This thing has been in my lungs, and it's being thrown out. And that's the same for COVID. If I didn't have a COVID shot, I don't know what this thing I have right now would be doing to me. So, and no, it's not COVID. I have tested. So the idea is, look, guys, whatever's going on out there, whatever you believe, it's illness time. It's that time of year. And if you're living in Southern California, it's also flood time and massive snowstorm time. Has been very interesting here. And all I can tell you is, whatever you want to avoid, a mask is going to do it. Washing your hands, socially distancing, getting your vaccines up to date, that's going to mean, what are you getting? You got a cold. Yeah, I didn't get flu either. It's just a bloomin' cold. It's really wonderful. So please remember, wear your mask, wash your hands, socially distance, do what you got to do, get your vaccines up to date. It's not just about COVID anymore. We've all learned a hard lesson about immunity and about the spread of disease in the last few years. So take care of everybody and take care of yourself. In other words, everybody live long and prosper. No, that too, but stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.